So I'm going to talk today, and the title of the talk is Earth is the Womb of God, but I have a photo to share with you. On my last morning of retreat, the way that knows the way woke me up at about 5 a.m. And instead of pulling my eye mask down from my forehead where it hadn't done much good down to my eyes and going back to sleep, I decided to walk down and say goodbye and thank you to this beach that had been one of the anchor spots of our time on Iona. This is the Northeast Beach. And as I said my prayers and said my thanks, the words under the words, I looked up and there was a rainbow. The first of 6 rainbows that followed our homecoming that day. And so as I ask you to enter with me into this time of rest, Pete, that song is beautiful, the rest that is beyond what we often allow ourselves to say yes to. And I ask you to pray with me and for me that our time resting in spirit, resting in the womb of all that is, that we hear every sound that God is calling forth for us to hear. Truly, that God is calling forth every sound. Let everything that breathes and builds and ebbs and flows praise the love that created us. So I invite you to perhaps soften your gaze and enter that space of the sacred gift that I was able to be in physically, but that we're invited to notice even the sacredness of a house plant, the sacredness of a remembered holy place that we have been in. And feel the beauty of creation grounding our feet, grounding our whole beings. Because everywhere we stand on this holy Mother Earth is sacred ground. So we just enter a few moments of breathing in, breathing out in the rhythm of your body, breathing as the breath of God. Let the sound of your breath carry you, imagining the sound of waves, the sound of breeze. And know that those sounds are the voice of God whispering within. That breath in and breath out is the voice of Spirit inviting us to lay down worry, to open our eyes and our hearts to love and compassion to self-compassion. And feel in every cell of your body that you are made of the same stuff as stars. The minerals of the ancient rocks. That you're made of water and light. And that all of creation is an incarnation of the Word. And in that sense of deep, deep knowing, I invite you to come back fully. Let your breath deepen. Let your eyes open if they were closed. And in that fullness of sound and silence, that is the echo of the entire universe in this space, I invite you into my heart's ramblings, and I will try to not have them be rambling. You know, as I mentioned last week, part of the gift of pilgrimage is the return home. And in some ways, this message today, that homecoming felt really both energizing and a little bit exhausting after arriving back on this side of the pond on Friday night. But as I did my, back in the office work and my work of continuing to integrate what were the gifts for me of that particular pilgrim journey, that time, that deep time within the cycles of my life, which is also, of course, a pilgrimage like each of us experience, when we are able to revision our lives as a pilgrimage and to see those arcs, the story arcs of the pilgrimage journey that are part of our life, the setting out into something new, the sometimes disillusionment that can happen somewhere along the way, the grief of that's not exactly how I thought it was going to be, to a sense of, oh, okay, but here is this gift of this time. And I enter that time anew and bring that gift of awareness back into the daily living. I don't anyways. I don't know about you, but I don't stay in that space all the time. Again, one of the gifts of why I need community. And why I am so deeply grateful for this community. And so as I have been doing my integrating, thinking about what those gifts were for me, to have the privilege, the deep privilege to fly, to use up some of the earth's resources, not lightly, I hope, to go and spend time in this sacred site that reminds me that wherever my feet are is holy ground. But this idea of the aliveness of the earth not as something that we have dominion over, power over, even stewardship over, but that we are called, as we hear that spiritual awakening of all, the divine essence of all, we are called to re-enter sacred relationship with the earth, with the rocks, with the trees, with our four-legged beings. I woke up to a very fluffy, white-haired being. I'm babysitting 2 grandpuppies overnight, and this morning was There was Penny. It's like, oh, you didn't sleep on the couch. You slept on the floor right next to me. So all of that is part of, we are called to remember that the gift of Jesus, the reminder of the incarnation, was not for one being, right? We know this in our circles, and many wisdom traditions around the world understand that. That incarnation is a call for us to remember that that word that was spoken, that created the womb, which then life entered, was from the very beginning. And that shifts our relationship to everything. We were talking a little bit before the service about messages that are really simple. It's a simple message. You are one with everything. Oneness abounds. Oneness abides. It is not simple to live into it. It changes everything. And so I'm going to share a little bit of wisdom from a book that my dear Anamkara friend Sue, that I traveled with to Iona, found after our trip. It is John Philip Newell, a writer that I have read often and who was once an abbot on the island of Iona. His book that she sent me is called The Rebirthing of God: Christianity's Struggle for New Beginnings. And so I'm going to weave a little bit of the wisdom that I have found just in this first chapter. I read the introduction in the chapter before bed on Friday night, and it transformed what I knew I wanted my message to be grounded in. How to go from this phrase that echoed on retreat, that earth is the womb of God, that these 2.8 billion year old stones that I was standing on, that I was picking up on the beach, that are embedded in this ring that I brought home as a reminder of my commitment to God's promise to me and my promise back. Where are we called? All of the ancient wisdom reminds us that we are not only made by God, we are made of God. Right? We say that every week when we say our prayer of protection. We are not only made by God, we are not only called forth from that love, from that creative surge of energy that started billions of years ago, but we are made of God. And we and our, I'm going to read this exactly because I don't want to butcher the quote. In the chapter, John Philip Newell also talks about Teilhard de Chardin. He calls him one of the modern mystics because he brought forward in his science and spirituality some of that ancient wisdom that Julian of Norwich, Hildegard of Bingen, other writers and prayers, livers of that, not livers, living into that. Well, they had livers too. Into that mystical union with the beloved. But hear these words from this book. Got to watch your language. The first thing that is said about humanity in the Hebrew Scriptures is that we are made in the image and likeness of God. Everything else written about us in our scriptural inheritance needs to be read in light of this foundational truth. That within us is the likeness of the one from whom we have come. We are made of the light that was in the beginning. We are made of the wisdom that fashioned the universe in its glory of interrelatedness. We are made of the love that longs for oneness. This is not to deny our capacity for falseness. and for the ugly betrayals that tear us apart. It is simply to say that deeper still is our of Godness. Everything that has unfolded in space and time was present in utero, in the universe's beginnings. So interrelated are we and all things that with that initial flaring forth of light, everything that has unfolded in space and time was present in utero, in the universe's beginnings. So we are interrelated with all things that were born forth of that initial flaring of light. Teachers in the Celtic world have been saying something similar for a long time. So have Unity teachers. Teilhard de Chardin knew that at the heart of matter is the heart of God. The deeper we move into the mystery of any created thing, the closer we come to the divine presence. He also believed that the Christian doctrine of the Incarnation teaches us to see that we can be saved only by becoming one with the universe. That is a very different message. Many of us who arrive on the steps of unity arrive with some wounding, some sense of the tradition that we were raised in has become a tradition where too many people at the top have forgotten that. Not all containers have forgotten that. But we are blessed in our community to remind each other of that over and over again. Science is reminding us. Science is learning that the cosmos that is beyond what we can imagine in our human brains. I shared last week that image of the history of just this Earth in this galaxy, that if it were the Eiffel Tower, human history would be the postage stamp at the top of the Eiffel Tower. It is almost impossible for us to get to an understanding of that without using metaphor, without embracing paradox. Because while the incarnation includes both Jesus, who came to teach us that we are one with the universe, and each of us, we were there from the beginning, as was all of creation. And yet we are called forth at this moment because this is the moment that needs us. We were called forth in this moment because this moment needs us. The earth, the physical body of the earth in her aliveness, the womb of God is crying out for us to remember our sacred relationship with the earth and with each of us in it. 1 John chapter 4 says, "You cannot hate your sister or brother and love God." Desjardins would remind us that you cannot claim to love God and hate any part of God's creation. These parts, the parts that are really challenging for us to love, right? It's easy in a community where we feel welcomed and loved and accepted. It is not always easy to remember that those whom we would other are also beloved of God, and they have forgotten their part in this sacred ecosystem that is our earth. Our blessing, then, comes back always to me, to our vision and our mission. We say those words and we imbue them every week with what it means to be in that word, in that blessing on any given Sunday. And I hope that you also carry that with you during your week. What does that mean if our primary blessing to the world is to be signs of what it is to live in sacred relationship? That is a dramatic shift in our understanding of our place in the scheme of things. We empower each other then to say yes to how God is calling forth our light. We don't have power over others in relationships in workplaces, in schools, in neighborhoods, in communities. We don't have power over. We empower each other. That shift in understanding that it is our primary blessing to be in that kind of relationship with all that is. It's our birthright. It is the birthright that called us into being in this moment, in the long trajectory of the history of this earth, that we cannot on our own heal. One of the powerful phrases from the chapter that I read was that we actually cannot heal the earth. That still puts us in relationship over the earth. It is not ours to do. But it is very much ours to step into that sacred relationship and do all that we can so that the wisdom of the earth has time to heal. The earth will very likely survive us. There is deep wisdom in that womb of God, in those 2.8 billion year old rocks, in the sea and sky, in the wind, in the trees. There is deep wisdom. And in our postage stamp history, we have done grave damage to our mother, to each other. The signs of that are all over. I do not need to go through the laundry list. Just open your Google News. It's in there. And so our call today, our call every day, is to step into this time and space to nourish each other, to see and witness the light that we bring to this moment, to this community, to this unrepeatable expression of the light that called you forth from the womb of God. We are here to call that forth in each other and to enter again the sacred relationship that called us into being. So I'm going to leave us today. I had a poem, trying to decide. I have two. I have a poem by St. Mary Oliver. Maybe that's the one. Actually, I'm going to read both. I'm going to read first the poem that I read last week, because I think then it is an entry point into the Gospel of St. Mary Oliver. And this, again, is A Blessing for Transfiguration, and it's Christine Valters Paintner. So hear these words, and remember that this is you are also in each of these things that is being called forth by this radiant God. Radiant God, open our eyes to all the ways the sacred shimmers before us. How gold pours forth from the robin's throat, how sunlight returns each morning, how the moon glitters across still water, how laughter around the table kindles joy, how kindness can save lives. Free us from our need to seize these moments, to make of them stone monuments rather than tabernacles of light we carry with us in our hearts. This vision is not a call to stay on the mountain, but to gather our treasures into an open embrace, to make the slow pilgrimage into the world, to share them freely after our descent in a world so hungry for beauty. Help us to remember, to keep our seeing clear, attuned, present to your unfolding before us. Let us see your glow erupting in all the hidden corners, in all the places you have been forgotten. And so hear that beautiful call into remembrance in conversation with Mary Oliver's The Sun. Have you ever seen anything in your life more wonderful than the way the sun every evening, relaxed and easy, floats toward the horizon and into the clouds or the hills or the rumpled sea and is gone? And how it slides again out of the blackness every morning on the other side of the world like a red flower, streaming upward on its heavenly oils. Say, on a morning in late summer, at its perfect imperial distance, and have you ever felt for anything such wild love? Do you think there is anywhere, in any language, a word billowing enough for the pleasure that fills you as the sun reaches out, as it warms you, as you stand there empty-handed? Or have you too turned from this world? Or have you too gone crazy for power, for things? You are the sunlight. It is alive in you. The minerals from those ancient, ancient stones are alive in you. Can we live in such a way that we remember that we are born from the earth, the womb of God? May it be so, and so it is. Amen.